Tradition is one of the most stubborn of barriers when it comes to the truth, and we humans are addicted by habit to tradition.
Everything we do in this life is a consequence, and the consequence is most great with our walk as believers.
Be prepared for some startling discoveries when you open the scriptures for yourself.
I'd like to welcome you to a very special Discover the Truth program. Today we're going to focus on the pro-life initiative or issue. I'd like to first introduce Alan Mansager, the co-host here with Discover the Truth. It's good to be with you.
Glad to be here.
We have a very special guest today. We have Carol Tobias. She is with the National Right to Life Committee. You have, as I understand it, you've been within the pro-life initiative arena, if you will, for about 40 years.
Yes,
is that right?
I have, yes.
And 3 years as the president for the National Right to Life. Why don't you sort of fill in the blanks and tell us a little bit about yourself, about the organization, and maybe some of the initiatives you're currently undergoing.
Okay. National Right to Life is the nation's largest and oldest pro-life organization, having started back in 1968. We have an affiliate in each of the 50 states and about 3,000 chapters around the country. So there's a pretty good chance that your listeners are close to one of our chapters if they want to get involved or just get more information. I have been involved with the pro-life movement, as you said, for more than 40 years. I was the executive director of North Dakota Right to Life, which is one of our affiliates. And then I was the political director for National Right to Life in Washington, D.C. for 14 years. And I've now been president for 3 years, and I love the job. It's wonderful people to work with, and it's a great movement to be a part of, fighting to protect innocent human life. National Right to Life is working in 3 main areas: education, legislation, and political action. We want to educate people about the humanity of the unborn child, that this isn't just a blob of tissue or mass of cells. There is another life that is involved whenever this decision is being made. And then we also work in the legislative arena, trying to pass laws to protect those unborn children and also to protect their mothers. Abortion isn't always a safe procedure. So we are working in the legislative arena to try to reduce the numbers of abortions, because the Supreme Court won't let us just completely stop this at all. And then we work in the political arena, because you can't pass pro-life laws if you aren't electing pro-life candidates. So that's kind of where we put most of our focus.
Okay, and what are some of the initiatives? And we talked about some of those prior to this recording. Share that with us if you would.
Well, one of the things that kind of blends the education and the legislation together is that we want to, keep the unborn child alive in the public debate. And we want people thinking about that unborn child. So one of our legislative initiatives would be to ban abortions on unborn children who are capable of feeling pain. There's a substantial body of evidence that says pain can be felt by these unborn children by about 20 weeks after fertilization. So 13 states have already passed a bill saying that once the child reaches that stage, abortion is not allowed in those states. The United States House of Representatives has passed that bill, and we are trying to get Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, to bring that vote bring the bill to a vote. But we're not sure that's going to happen.
Not much success there.
Not yet.
Okay, well, great. One of the things I want to make sure the audience understands is that we're not here to condemn those who've had abortions or
right, absolutely.
even contemplating abortions. We're certainly on the pro-life side and believe that life is precious, and believe that abortion is not something we should be pursuing, but we're not here to condemn. We're here to make people aware of the sanctity of life and the importance of life, as you've already expounded upon. Now, I want to talk about the number of abortions, because I think it's always important to understand the gravity of the issue we're talking about. And we've had many millions of abortions since Roe versus Wade. And so why don't you help us understand the totality of abortions that we've had within this nation and maybe even internationally?
Okay. 56 million abortions in this country since 1973. The high point was in the early 1990s, when we were at about 1.6 million abortions every year. That dropped in the 2000s to almost 1.2 million every year. And earlier this year, we got the figures from 2011, which is the latest year that the statistics are available. And the numbers had dropped to just a little over 1 million a year.
So we've seen a reduction to about 200,000.
From the high point of 1.6 million, it's about 500,000 abortions fewer in 2011 than in the early 1990s. Which is a tremendous drop. And we've seen the abortion rates go down, which is the number of abortions per 1,000 women of childbearing age. The ratio, which is how many abortions have been performed compared to how many pregnancies were carried to term for delivery. That has all been dropping. Those numbers, the rate and the ratio, are actually at their lowest point since 1973, when abortion was legalized. So we are seeing that women in this country are choosing life more often for their children than they had for the past 40 years.
What do you attribute that to? Why are they now becoming more sensitive to?
Well, the abortion industry would say that the abortion rate is dropping because more women are using contraceptives. And I'm sure that may be a part of it. I know there have been some more aggressive programs also encouraging abstinence. And there's, I would say, a large part to do with the educational and legislative efforts that the pro-life movement has been putting out there, trying to make sure that abortionists have to give information to women about the abortion procedure, alternatives that are available before she makes that decision, or laws that say teenage girls have to talk to their parents or get consent, or at least have a parent notified before she gets an abortion. Those kinds of things, stopping the federal funding or any tax funding of abortion, all that would also, I think, lead into the reasons that
some of the
abortions are going
awareness
down.
certainly has helped, I think, in the reduction of abortions. Yes. What about some of the foreign countries of abortions? I know some of those numbers were much higher than what we see here in the United States.
Yes. I believe the latest figures worldwide are about from 2008, which would show almost 44 million abortions around the country, but I'm not sure how accurate that is. I mean, I don't know how you would know which abortions are being performed in which towns in Africa or in other countries.
So there's no way to really track the true number of abortions.
I'm not sure it's. I mean, this might be close. The 44 million. But I don't know if that's certainly all of them. We did get some figures. Now, the Chinese Health Ministry just recently released their numbers from 2009, saying that 13 million abortions had been performed in their country. That's 1,500 abortions every hour in 2009. Really quickly here, the minority populations, we know that blacks make up 12% of the country, and yet they have 1/3 of the abortions. Hispanics make up 16% of the population in the country, and they have 25% of the abortions. Whites make up 63% of the population, and they have 36% of the abortions. And I think a lot of that has to do with abortion facilities, the industry like Planned Parenthood, targeting minority communities. They put their abortion facilities in those areas. And I think that's why you're starting to see so many leaders in the black community stand up and talk about black genocide. Mm-hmm. When you've got 12% of the population, but 30 to 36% of the abortions are killing your babies, they're not happy with that.
And again, I think that's where the awareness comes in, and for them to understand the situation as it is.
Absolutely.
That they're losing such a large portion of their population.
Mm-hmm. But both blacks and Hispanic leaders will say that the most dangerous place in the world for a Latino baby, for a black baby, is in the womb, in the uterus.
For years I've wondered too, why aren't these leaders standing up and saying this, especially some of these ministers, because they know this is occurring, and the family situation, the breakdown within those demographics. And I think maybe we're seeing that today, beginning to. Mm-hmm. I saw some statistics in addition to what you were talking about from the Guttmacher Institute, a leading organization. And I want to make a note there too, that Guttmacher, and you know the organization probably better than I do, but as I understand it, they're not a religious organization. Is that correct?
No, they were started as the research arm for Planned Parenthood. Now, Planned Parenthood is the largest abortion provider in this country, and Guttmacher has spun off from them, legally, but they still have that reputation, so when they can go to the abortion facilities and say they're doing research, they're doing studies, how many abortions are you doing, what kind of abortions are you doing, at what stages of the development of the baby are you doing the abortions, the abortionists themselves are more willing to respond to those kinds of inquiries because that is an organization that they actually trust.
So they have really no axe to grind from a theological or religious standpoint, the Guttmacher Institute.
No.
If anything, they probably go the other way politically.
What they will try to do, like when they came out to say that abortions in 2011 are at their lowest level since the early 70s, they will say, but it's got nothing to do with all the things that these pro-lifers are doing. It's got nothing to do with pregnancy resource centers, and it's got nothing to do with legislation. It's all because of, and they'll try to, like I said, a lot of it they put a lot of emphasis on access to contraceptives, but they will deny, so their reasoning, I think, is faulty, but the actual numbers are probably pretty accurate.
Okay. Well, let me share this real quickly, and then I think I'd like to move on to the next topic very quickly. Developing countries, according to the Guttmacher Institute, 37.8 million abortions, and this was 2008. In Africa, we saw 6.4 million abortions. Asia, 27.3, which is just an astronomical number if you think about it. I mean, what did you say, about 1 million or 1.2 million, I think, in 2008 here in this nation. Europe, 4.2 million. Latin America, 4.4 million. North America, 1.4 million. This was, again, 2008. So millions upon millions of abortions in 2008. Many more in some of these countries like Asia and Africa and including China, which you've already mentioned. I think we're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back there. We're going to talk about the different stages of abortion. It's so important to understand that, to realize the pain and the impact of these abortions. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Since the infamous court case of Roe v. Wade in 1973, over 50 million babies have been aborted. Over the decades, we've seen and heard heated protests on both sides. While abortion has become a political issue, it has always been a moral issue. The Bible confirms that our Father Yahweh loves both the born and the unborn. In our booklet, The Value of Life, we examine the abortion issue from many facets, including the number and demographics of abortion, reasons why women choose abortion, and its physical and psychological impact. We also show evidence from both medical science and the Bible that life begins in the womb. In addition, this publication offers real alternatives and solutions to abortion, including information on interim foster care and adoption. We also answer the important question, is it possible to find forgiveness for abortion? If you are concerned or would like to learn more about the abortion issue or possibly contemplating this course, we encourage you to request this free booklet. It will open your eyes to what so many are missing in this age of disregard for what is holy. Request our free booklet now by dialing 1-573-896-1000 or write to Discover the Truth, P.O. Box 463, Holt Summit, Missouri 65043. Read and request from our website, yrm.org.
If you want a Bible that answers the hard questions, then the Restoration Study Bible is for you. This resource offers insight and clarity found nowhere else. The Restoration Study Bible examines the source languages behind the English text to reveal original meanings. In addition to restoring the sacred names Yahweh and Yahshua, this unique Bible has thousands of eye-opening study notes, cross-references, charts, a topical reference, Strong's numbering, and the Strong's Hebrew and Greek dictionaries. You can receive your own Restoration Study Bible valued at $60 for a donation of only $25 plus shipping and handling. Order online at yrm.org/Bible or by credit card Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time by calling 573-896-1000. Don't delay. This brand new and fascinating Bible will change your life.
Welcome back. Well, just as a reminder, we have Alan Mansager, our co-host, with us, and a very special guest, Tobias from the National Right to Life Committee. I'd like to welcome you both again here. We left off talking about the different stages of abortion, so if you can help us understand the different stages and what happens in each stage.
Absolutely. I've got models here that I'm going to be bringing up to show the development of the unborn child at the various stages. These are actual size representations of the baby. When a doctor is talking about a 40-week pregnancy, or would say like you're 12 weeks pregnant, he's going back to the last menstrual cycle. Fertilization actually takes place about 2 weeks after that. So this baby is, you might say you're 6 weeks pregnant, but it's actually 4 weeks after fertilization. And the two common forms of abortion at this stage, very early in the pregnancy. One would be called an early, the abortion industry says early medication abortion. We might call it just a chemical abortion. I think it's more of a chemical cocktail because they prescribe 2 pills to the pregnant woman. The first one will be the one that, it's a progesterone it blocks the progesterone in the uterus. The lining of the wall is where the baby is getting the nourishment. And it blocks that progesterone so that the baby basically starts starving to death because the nutrients are not there that are needed. The second pill that she would take 36 to 48 hours later will then contract the uterus and expel that dead baby. The abortion counselor at the facility might tell her, look, go home, take this pill, and then if you feel like you have to go to the bathroom, or if something might be coming out, then go to the, sit on the toilet. And she might be there and she'll see a mass of cells, some blood drop out, but frequently you will hear reports where she actually was able to see the little developing baby. And so this is happening in her own home. It can be very dangerous. There can be severe hemorrhaging. Maybe the baby didn't reach the uterus. Maybe the baby was developing in the fallopian tube. If that tube ruptures, her life is in danger. But there's no way of knowing that because she was just handed some pills. So it can actually be a very dangerous form of abortion. So as you get that stage or maybe a little older, the next more common form is what they call a suction aspiration or a suction abortion. And it's a tube that is inserted into the uterus attached to basically a vacuum cleaner, a suction machine, 29 times stronger than your vacuum cleaner at home. And the doctor goes in with that tube and is just suctioning out the uterus, and the baby is pulled into the jar, and the baby is gone. The life is over. When you get a little older, but this is a baby in the first trimester, about 3 months, and one of the abortion methods is. Again, they can do the suction, or they might go in with, let's say, a knife with a little loop on the end, and they will insert that tool in and start cutting up the baby.
Now they're watching this as they're performing
They're watching this on ultrasound most of the time. The abortionist will have the ultrasound on so that he can see where the baby is. He's got to make sure he gets all the parts out. So he will go in with this knife and cut the baby into pieces, and then use the tube, the suction, to make sure that to suck the baby's body out again into this jar.
Does the baby feel pain at this point?
At this stage, it doesn't. We don't believe that the pain receptors are present. That happens more at around 20 weeks after fertilization. So at this point, we don't know for sure.
Right.
But the baby probably isn't developed enough that the pain would be present. This is a baby at about 14 weeks after fertilization, 16 weeks pregnancy. For this one, the doctor, the abortionist, is going to go in with an instrument that's more like a pliers, and he will have to pull off the arms and the legs and pull them out. He'll pull out the torso, and then using that pliers instrument, he will crush the skull, the head, and to remove that. And he has an assistant that's in the room that has to put these pieces together, the arms, the legs, the body, to make sure that nothing has been left inside.
That's just unthinkable.
It really is, and they're watching this on screen as the baby is being torn apart. As you get a little older into the pregnancy, there are abortionists in the country who will do abortions in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th month of pregnancy. A couple of the forms there, one would be, they don't do it as much anymore, saline abortion. They would just inject, put a needle into the mother's abdomen, into the uterus, and insert a saline solution, which is basically a salt poisoning. The baby's skin would burn off. The baby would inhale that salt solution, burning the lungs and the vocal cord, the esophagus. The baby would die about maybe an hour later after thrashing around in this poison. And then the next day, the woman would probably go into labor and deliver this dead baby. But that's very dangerous, of course, for the mother to have that salt solution put into the system. So they've pretty much stopped doing that. What they will do now is insert the needle directly into the baby's heart and insert a chemical digoxin, which will stop the heart. So then the baby just dies that way. There was another procedure, very well known, talked about for many years, the partial birth abortion procedure, which would mean the doctor was pulling the baby out breech, all but the head, and then he would go in, stab the back of the head with the scissors, open a little hole, put in the suction tube and suck out the brain so that the head collapsed, and then he could get that then out through the opening. But that is the bill that Congress was able to pass. President Bush signed, Supreme Court upheld it. That procedure itself is actually illegal and has been since 2006.
The Bible talks about people in the latter days being without natural affection. Whenever I think of abortion, I can't help but think of that passage because, as you just explained, it's inhumane. Each one of those procedures, whether they can or cannot feel pain,
right?
You're still terminating a human life. And,
absolutely.
Again, to hear your description is just unthinkable. It just makes me cringe, and my heart goes out. I have 2 children myself, and to think that a mother would do this to their child, and again, we're not condemning, but it is a taking of a human life. Those are the facts, and the way they do it is just completely inhumane.
And I would like to point out that the pro-life movement has never tried to do anything against the women who've had abortions, that they should be put in jail because they killed their baby. We have never tried to do that. We would look at them as actually the second victim. Because they've maybe been, pushed into this decision, or for whatever the reason. We want the abortionists to stop killing babies, but we have never done anything to in any way go after the women who have been involved.
Well, that's a very good point. We have about 4 minutes left in this program.
Okay.
And I want to talk about the proof for life from both a scientific, medical standpoint and also from a scriptural standpoint, obviously. So why don't you talk very briefly, if you would, about the medical evidence that life does begin at conception?
Absolutely, I'd love to do that. As I pointed out, this is the baby very early on. By the end of this stage, the baby's heart has been beating already. The baby's heart beats about 18 to 22 days after conception, after fertilization, with a blood type different than his or her mother's. This is his or her blood type. The livers, the kidneys, the intestines are beginning to take shape. By week 5, the eyes, legs, and hands are developing. Brain waves are present by week 6. Mouth and lips are present. The fingernails are forming. This is a baby at about 6 weeks after fertilization. A doctor, or we want to say she's 8 weeks pregnant, but the brain waves are detectable. Eyelids and toes are forming. Every organ is in place.
Now, what about the heartbeat? It's my understanding 18 to 24 days after conception is.
Yes, the heartbeat's
so what
18
stage
to 22
would that
days.
begin?
So that's going to be this very first
one. So that's that
one.
first stage.
Yep, that's
and I've always said too, if a beating heart doesn't indicate life, what would?
Absolutely.
And, at very early age.
It really does. This is life. This is a baby at about 12 weeks after conception, 14 weeks pregnant. The heart is pumping several quarts of blood every day. It's just, this is a baby. They've got taste buds. And it's just,
That's
and
amazing.
they just continue to grow. New things all the time, but it's an amazing creature. creation.
Well, I know you shared with me one of your favorite passages. Why don't you share that with the audience, showing that life does begin at conception?
The one verse, or the scripture verse that really hit me when I was early on in looking at this was Psalm 139. David is talking to his Creator, and he says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. You formed me." He says, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." God knew that each one of us was coming, and He formed us from the very beginning. And that really had a
that's an
profound
incredible
effect
passage.
on me.
Alan, maybe you have a few passages you can share as well.
Well, and I know in this state they have passed bills into law that if a mother is somehow injured, a pregnant mother, and the baby dies, that they would be guilty. And if she was murdered, there'd be two murders. Well, the Bible even talks about that. In Exodus 21:22.
And we have about 40 seconds left, just to give you time
I'll
frame.
go quickly. If men strive and hurt a woman and a child so that her fruit depart from her, basically, then her husband can come back on that man and deal out whatever punishment he wants, and then the judges will take over and do that too. The Bible is very clear that a baby is not just a blob of protoplasm, it's a real live human being.
And God wants to protect His children.
That's right.
Just very quickly, I want to, because we're out of time, but I want to get three more passages. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 talks about Jeremiah being known in the womb. Luke chapter 1 verse 15 talking about John the Baptist even receiving the Spirit from the womb. In the Galatians chapter 1 verse 15 talking about Paul being appointed from the womb. Where life does begin in the womb, and I think we can see this both from a medical and scriptural standpoint. I'd like to thank Carol and Alan both for being with us today, and it's an important issue, so I pray that this has been a blessing to the audience, and pray that they would watch every week. And may Yahweh bless you, and bye-bye.
For today's free offer, call now. Operators are standing by. Dial 1-573-896-1000 or write to the address on your screen. Request online by visiting one of the most extensive religious websites on the internet, yrm.org. Help support Discover the Truth. Donate by credit card by calling during regular office hours, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time, or give online, donate.yrm.org. For a one-time yearly donation of $25 or more, we would like to send you a gift, a one-year subscription to our bi-monthly Restoration Times magazine. This magazine will unlock Bible truth that will simply amaze you. For more information or to read online, visit restorationtimes.org. Join us again next week as we take you on a journey of understanding, walking the pathways of the Messiah and his apostles, exploring the Hebraic origins of the faith, and carving away man's tradition as we discover the truth.